What's up, NIO family? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down some very important earnings that came out, what the news is saying about the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, there is a lot of news coming out right now involving the markets. The market's actually selling off amidst some fear that's building. Looking at NIO, we got this sell off as well, which is what I predicted would likely happen tomorrow. Or I predicted this yesterday for today's video. And I still think we look kind of bearish on the charts, especially if we lose some key supports. So I want to break down some important levels to watch for over the next couple of minutes. But let me first mention there's a lot of news that's coming out right now. Unfortunately, there's a lot of attacks going on in the Middle East, and it's very, very intense right now. This is very, very negative, and the market's getting a somewhat negative reaction to what's going on right now. So once again, there's warnings that there's more attacks coming, and it's very, very horrendous news. I really hope that as few casualties happen as possible, but right now it's very, very sad to just see this happening straight up as innocent lives are paying the biggest price and it's having a negative effect on the markets. Tomorrow morning, before the market opens, we have initial jobless claims coming out, not to mention continuing jobless claims. This data might cause some volatility, so get ready for that. Then we have Barkin from the Fed giving a speech. We'll see what the jobs numbers look like. If they cause a bounce, this could help the markets. If not, we're going to likely continue to fall. But the charts still suggest downside. Right now, there's a 71.5% chance the Fed gives us a 50 basis point cut, according to what the market is pricing in, and a 28.5% chance that we get a 25 basis point cut. The market is still expecting a cut, but the rate at which they're expecting is now shifting because the Fed is not going to give us an emergency cut, and we're still waiting for CPI for next week. For earnings in the morning, we had Shopify and Walt Disney. We also had Robinhood come out after market close. I'm not going to talk too much about these. Just when it comes to Disney, they had pretty good earnings overall, but some things were not really satisfactory for Wall Street. So they beat on EPS with $1.39 adjusted. Revenues be at 23.16 billion, and their total operating income is once again up 19%. However, what isn't so good is the fact that despite their subscribers increasing and revenue going up a bit, their theme parks are slowing down. We're actually seeing, especially in the US, things are down a little bit so far, down about 6%. International parks are only up about 2%. And then guidance has been pretty good, but maybe not as great as what many of these analysts were expecting. So they're pledging to spend $60 billion on their theme parks over the next decade. And it's going to be very important to watch and see this accelerated growth. But like I said before, some things were a little bit slow, but everything else was quite decent. I would say more good than bad, but it wasn't really enough to wow investors. For NIO, there's news coming out about the EL6. There's a lot of advertisements coming out on their Twitter page. There's a lot of excitement involved in all of this. And then there's also some talk about how NIO is going to hold the Onvo L60 launch event on September 19th. That's building the excitement and the hype for the company, so I can't wait to see what this leads to. Volume is currently at 33 million, and we're starting to see a big shift right here. The price price ratio is down as NIO is losing strength, and then Thursdays tend to be green only about 49% of the time, so there's still that risk. So what do I see for the share price? In all honesty, guys, we look bearish. We're making lower highs and lower lows, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. And I think that there's a chance we might dip a little bit lower towards 3.65. Notice that the last time we hit this, we did see NIO bounce, so it's going to be a tough support. Tomorrow, there's a good chance that NIO might test this. Look for potentially a little gap up tomorrow towards 3.75, and then maybe a little bit more downside into the low 3.6s, and we'll see if we bounce or not off of that. But I think we might dip a little bit lower as the most likely possibility. For Tesla, I just wanted to mention that Tesla is also kind of weak. We have this bearish looking structure that's forming as we got this double top like structure, and we have this big imbalance down here towards 187. I think there's a very good chance that Tesla might be dipping towards that area as we're looking a little bit more bearish. So there's a good chance that we're going to likely continue to dip, and I want everyone to be very careful with Tesla considering that. To turn back to bullish, you want to break past 196, but this chart is suggesting the downside is looking more probable. If we lose 190, that looks more favorable to me. So if we break past 195, we could rebound. Tomorrow morning, we might try to gap up a little bit, but then there's a risk of us dipping all the way down to the 188 area. We'll have to see if that holds or not. If not, we're going all the way down to 185, so Tesla looks a little bit more bearish. SPY, it's barely at this one support. We lost 518, so if we try to reclaim that tomorrow, we could bounce to 522. If not, we're likely dipping all the way down to our lows all over again, back down towards, I would say, the 504 to 505 area. We look bearish. This looks like a bear flag that's leading to another rejection. So the chart is most likely going to be coming back down towards the 510 area, if not 505. That looks more favorable unless we end up reclaiming 518 and 520. But the chart looks more bearish on SPY, and we look like we're going to be looking at more downside. Nvidia is no difference. We need to reclaim not just 100, but 104 to turn back up. Otherwise, there's a risk of us coming down to this imbalance all the way down towards 93.5. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin is once again looking a little bit more bearish. We need to reclaim 56,000 to turn back up. Otherwise, this will continue to dip towards 54,500 and then much lower levels all the way down to the 53,000 area. I think that there's a good chance Bitcoin dips lower, looks a little bit more bearish. Excuse me, we could be forming like a head and shoulders, and this is still looking pretty weak to me. ES looks more bearish, got a big rejection. It's still falling as I speak. It's barely at 5,200. If that fails, we'll continue to dip all the way down to the 5,100s. This is looking more favorable, and I favored the downside. Unfortunately, the QQQ got a big rejection as well. Watch 437 as resistance. We got to reclaim 442 to turn back up. If we fail to do so, this will likely continue to fall all the way down to about 423 all over again, and that's looking more favorable to me. Aapl failed to break past the 50 EMA. We got to reclaim 210 to turn back up. Otherwise, there's a risk of us dipping down towards this gap into the 205 area. For the IWM, we look a little bit more bearish. If we reclaim 203, we could try to rebound, but I think that this is favoring 190, 198. I think there's a good chance we come back down there. So that's looking more probable to me. For Coinbase, we look a little bit more bearish. If we reclaim 189, we could try to bounce, but this is kind of dipping. I think we still have this imbalance down here towards 169. We have a double top, and I think we are favoring 169. For Amazon needs to reclaim 165 to turn back up. Otherwise, it's going to likely continue to fall. There's going to be a risk of us dipping all the way down towards 158. That looks more favorable to me. There's a bearish divergence forming on Meta. If we reclaim 192, we could try to bounce. If we lose 184, we're going to be dipping lower. This chart is going to most likely dip to about 178, in my opinion. We'll see if it bounces off that or not, but I do see more downside as a stronger possibility. Microsoft is going to likely rebound, trying to retest 398. But we got to break 402 to turn back to bullish. If it fails to reclaim 398, if we just touch that and reject, there's still a risk of us dipping all the way down towards 393, then eventually 388 as we look more bearish. And Google is no different. We're getting a big rejection as well. We got to reclaim 161 to at least go up to 163, but we look more bearish. So it still favors the downside. GameStop is looking more bearish. We have a distributive structure. Look at supports all the way down towards 20.25. If that fails, we're going all the way down towards 19.64, and we favor the downside. AMC is no different. We look more bearish, forming this nice rejection structure. We could be dipping all the way down towards 4.68, and I still favor the downside. Don't forget that the dollar is starting to push a little bit. So this is forming a bullish wedge that could become more bearish for the markets. If this starts to break out and approaches 103.6, that will lead to more downside. So just want to give you guys a heads up about that. Anyways, the market still looks bearish. We tried to bounce today. We did push only to get a big rejection. So we bounced and we did call the bounce, but it did not last. We got a rejection afterwards. So it is what it is. Thank you for listening. Anticipate some downside, guys. Get ready for about that 3.6 area on NIO. I'll see if we bounce or not. Watch and see how we move. And I just want to thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow, and peace out.